Today we're going to be talking about the long COVID documentary and how chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID relate to one another.
Excellent.
If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and be sure to hit the alert button to be notified of new videos each week. So my name is Andrew Geddert, and I've been practicing as an herbalist for 35 years, and I also ran a company and also a clinic. And at the Get Well Clinic, one of the things we specialized is chronic illnesses. And one of the particular specialties of mine for 35 years has been chronic fatigue syndrome and its related condition, fibromyalgia. And I started working with in the beginning of the pandemic, people called me and they said, well, what natural remedies are good for COVID-19? And what we recommended is remedies that have worked for other infections in the past, like pneumonia, like the first SARS, like influenza. And then I first heard about long COVID in 2020. One of my colleagues developed long COVID, and I first heard about it. And I thought, wow, this is very similar to chronic fatigue syndrome. And so I thought that the same remedies that worked for chronic fatigue syndrome would work for long COVID. And so really that's the genesis of the movie. But the other important thing about the movie is that I realized that now in many of the cities, the universities and big medical establishments have started long COVID clinics. And one of my former patients, Jenny, she called up a long COVID clinic, and she's in the Bay Area. She said, well, I'd like to be a patient. And they said there'll be a 6-month waiting list. And then Jenny called her herbalist acupuncturist and got an appointment the next day by Zoom. And so the other thing I really wanted to tell people is that there's no proven cure for long COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome, there are definitely natural remedies that work. And so that's what we're going to be discussing in the movie. Well, I think first it started with people asking me, what do we do for acute COVID? And it was very similar in the 1980s when AIDS came up. There was no medical treatment for AIDS. So people said, well, if there's no medical treatment, can I take herbs? Can I take vitamins? What else can I take? Can I take remedies that may be approved in another country? And so that's when I first got my start in natural medicine, is with AIDS. And I used acupuncture and herbal medicine and helped people with AIDS. And in some cases, help people stay alive long enough to when the drugs got developed, they could use the drugs and save their life, right? So we really want to think both in terms of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, and even HIV, of integrating Chinese and Western medicine, or holistic and natural medicine and Western medicine. And that's why I think it's really important that we're not saying don't go to a doctor. Go to a doctor. If you're sick, go to the hospital if you need to. Go to a clinic. But if you have a complex disease like long COVID, you may not be getting the care that you think that you're going to get through the regular medical channels. And part of the reason of that is that in the Western medical establishment, they do not like complexity. And long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, these are complex conditions. So I realized that there was limits to the Western medicine treatment of long COVID. They're learning about what are the risk factors, but really treatments in Western medicine are really in the early stages, and there's no approved treatments. And even long COVID is an actually informal term. It's not a formal term, but it really describes people that have chronic health problems, and some of the main ones are fatigue, brain fog, memory loss, headaches, gastrointestinal illness, and it just lasts a long time after a COVID-19 infection. So the idea for the movie was, I know these natural remedies can help people because they've helped people with chronic fatigue syndrome. And I know that it's going to be difficult for Jenny and other people to get treatment through regular medical channels. So I really wanted to make this movie to inspire people to make an appointment with an herbalist, a naturopath, an integrative physician to start getting help and feeling better. Yeah, so the Get Well Foundation was formed maybe about 20, 25 years ago. And initially, we ran a nonprofit clinic in Oakland, California. We also sponsored some symposiums and some educational materials. And so but our chief activity was really the clinic, and that's where I really learned so much about treating people with natural medicine. And we had, again, a community-based clinic. We were treating all sorts of things, but because our specialty was natural medicine, we were not an emergency facility, so we were more geared towards people with chronic conditions. And I'd say the main things we saw were digestive illness, immune illnesses, and digestive, immune, and pain. Those are the main things we specialized in. And so more lately, the clinic had to close during the financial crisis in 2008. But we're picking up the work now by making movies, and we also have a YouTube channel. It's called Get Well Foundation. And we're producing a lot of information, 1 or 2 videos a week about not only natural solutions for chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID, but also natural remedies for sleep, foods for brain health. My 86-year-old aunt, she just loves the ones for brain health, and she has cognitive dysfunction and kind of like a pre-Alzheimer's condition. She lives around a lot of people with Alzheimer's health, and she loves the YouTube video on brain foods, and I actually dedicated one to her, and she was really impressed by it.
Oh, very nice.
Well, we're hoping that eventually the documentary will be on a streaming network. That was my idea. I really hoped, some of the streaming networks have good information about natural remedies, and I think that's where it would be really useful, because I really think that there's a lot of people who don't know that there are effective solutions for long COVID, for chronic fatigue syndrome, for fibromyalgia. And I recently had an experience myself where I learned from a nurse that doctors are not allowed to refer to people outside their network. So if there's no acupuncturist or naturopath in their network, they're never going to refer to those people. And I just know from personal experience in thousands and thousands of patients that these treatments can be very effective. So my real goal with the movie is for people who have long COVID, have chronic fatigue syndrome, have fibromyalgia, or their family members, help them understand and get some inspiration. I really want to inspire people to go out and try these remedies, go out and see a natural provider, and really learn to use these with therapeutic effectiveness. You see, if Andrew is a layperson, hears about a remedy, let's just say CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. It's been widely used for fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome for 20 or 30 years, okay? So now if you go to a doctor and say, well, should I use CoQ10 for chronic fatigue syndrome? They'll say, well, there's no research and it's not approved. Well, there is research, and it's not an approved treatment. It's not an approved drug for long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, or fibromyalgia, but it is a very effective therapy to give the body energy, right, to help people feel better. So but the problem is, so one of the problems is if you go to conventional medicine and you ask them about natural medicine, in some cases, they're not even allowed to comment on it. So you can't even talk to them about it. But then the other thing, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit there, but I just wanted to say that I hope that the movie can attract the people who are suffering and their family members, and that they can get relief. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and be sure to hit the alert button to be notified of new videos each week. For more information, visit our website, getwellfoundation.com.
andrewgeddert.org.